So, I have been having issues with my IEMs for my acoustic drumming setup. They just aren't blocking the outside sound like they used to. Long story short, I personally can't afford to buy and try new foam or different tips right now for them, so I'm looking for other solutions. I mentioned this to my dad, and he says that I should just get some good isolating headphones. And as we're both perusing through the local tractor supply company, I see these. The DeWalt DPG17 Premium Wireless Hearing Protector for $60. Turns out me and my dad got fleeced by brick and mortar business margins desperately trying to stay alive, because we could have saved a few dollars online, but that's only a minor point. Anyway, that seemed like a decent price. I would hope that DeWalt would know a thing or two about hearing protection since they are a tool company. So the only remaining question is, can a tool company integrate audio decently? I was gifted these by my father, so now let's see. One more point that I would like to add before we actually get into the headphone review that I thought was actually pretty funny is that there was a second similar pair sitting right next to these for $5 more that had an AM/FM radio integrated into the headphones. Additionally, there are chapters available on the timeline so you can skip around to portions that you care more about, or if you need to review a section. Also, affiliate links in the description to buy these if you are still interested in these by the end of the video. Don't forget to delete the honey extension if you choose to use the links, more about that at the end of the video. I've only done one headphone review before, so I'm going to follow the same format. So, we start with the packaging. They come in a plastic clamshell blister packaging, so it's not the kind that's impossible to open until you mangle them with some scissors or something like that. This one can semi-easily be opened by unsnapping the plastic latches, and which are also resealable if you needed. From there, the package includes the headphones, a USB-A to micro USB charging cable, and the Specks instruction manual. The cable is roughly 17 inches from measuring just the wire, not including the connectors. And that range will usually be decreased because of the cable memory from being folded up in the packaging. The packaging is light on marketing material, only having the most prominent features labeled, like Bluetooth enabled, 25 decibel noise reduction, and adjustable headband. Riveting. The only thing to really talk about for now concerning these is the noise reduction rating. After you've purchased the item and you crack open the instruction map, you can see that there are caveats to the noise reduction rating. There is an extended range of what sound frequencies are more or less blocked by these headphones, which, granted, should be present in any set of these kinds of headphones. It's best at blocking out mid to high range frequencies. So basically, based on these results and my interpretation, these are meant to be used in most workshops and scenarios with tools like power saws. Those produce some real harsh high-end frequencies from the blade rubbing against whatever you're sawing. These headphones should be able to block that out for the most part. But the low end is much less efficient, which is normal. Low-end frequencies are the hardest to insulate or block out. That's why you can hear a douchebag who has their shitty rap music turned up to 200 in their car from more than a mile away.
We're going to have a little demonstration of Leslie's stereo now. This is, I would imagine, about a quarter full. This puts it about a third full. And this puts it about half full in the area where you can sort of...
But the ratings for the low-end frequencies are still decent assuming that they are accurate, which I unfortunately don't have the equipment to test. There's also some fine print that says if your workspace has predominantly more frequencies in the 500 Hz range and under, that you should use a different measurement of sound, which I don't know how you're supposed to do unless maybe your employer is taking care of that. It also says that the measurements may be less efficient or accurate when it comes to impulsive noise, but I would imagine some serious hammer hits and stuff like that may also be applicable. So basically, loud sudden noises may not be blocked as efficiently, and due to the physics of how low-end frequencies work, the 500 Hz and under results may not be completely accurate based on these numbers as well. And finally, they also say that the numbers will more than likely not be completely accurate in real-life scenarios due to the fitment and possible movement and shifting on the user's head as they go about their business, which I am inclined to agree with due to a small construction issue that I will talk about in a bit. So they say to only use this data as comparison to other hearing protection that also provides this data. So let's move on to the construction. The overall quality is great. The headband has some minor, semi-firm foam. This means that hopefully it shouldn't get indented or deteriorate like most foams put in office chairs and stuff like that, where they often cut that important corner. This stuff should remain comfortable for hopefully at least a year of frequent use, but that's only an estimate. It may last longer, maybe even shorter. I got these for use while drumming, so that's when I really use them. I also tested these shortly at my desk initially, and a little bit more while writing this, and I noticed no discomfort then or when drumming, other than the thing to do with the construction that will be coming up here in a bit. These have a slightly thicker headband to protect and support the wire running from one ear cup to the other. This is so that if you use the wired connection, you only need one connector on one side of the headphones. Headband adjustment is this classic thin rod style. This makes adjusting the fit smooth and fairly easy. However, in even my short time using these, predominantly while drumming, so moving around and stuff, the cups seem to always start falling lower on my ears. I assume this is a side effect of this adjustment method. I don't imagine there's a great way to latch and set the position to sit in place on a linear smooth design like this. After further testing, the cups do slowly start dropping even while just sitting at my desk. That's not a good sign for when you're up and around actually doing things. So this can be a fairly big issue, especially if you are just buying these for the hearing protection. This can be a major contributing factor to the protection being less efficient due to the fit on the user's head being compromised by this tolerance, among other basic factors. So, like stated before, this may be a bigger issue than it really seems. However, I also don't know if it is a minor case of mine being a lemon, and if there are better tolerances on other units. Additionally, if you have a big or long head, you may not even notice this at all. Now onto the ear cups. They are a little bulky, but they are on par in terms of good hearing protection size. The plastic is firm and overall feels solid. The outside of the cups have some nice molding on the brand name and other decorational insetting, accompanied by buttons on one of the cups. I can't find a left or right ear indicator anywhere. My best guess is that the auxiliary jack is supposed to go on your back, so that you can run the wire down your back and so that it's out of the way and doesn't impede your arms in any way while working. So that would mean that the cup with the jack and the buttons is the right side cup, and looking at the instructions afterwards, it actually confirmed this. Since there may be some workers watching who don't normally use headphones very often, the only reason why this matters is for when whatever you're listening to has panning, which means that audio is meant to only come out of the left or the right side. It's like the concept of surround sound, but oftentimes much more basic in the use of headphones. For most music listening scenarios, it doesn't make too much of a difference, but for audio people like me, it kinda can. Now, onto the inside of the ear cups. The outer padding is coated with, I assume, a pleather. It's a nice solid but also flexible material that is supported by what feels like plush foam. So the good news is that the leather shouldn't crack or flake too much or too soon. However, there is a chance that the foam may wear down or become permanently squished sooner in the product's lifespan. It's often hard to tell with these things, so only time will tell. Since these are sound isolating hearing protection, they have to be the over-ear style. That means that the inner padding of the cups are important too. The inner foam is plush to the touch, but also has a nice firmer bounce back compared to the outer foam. This means that it should last at least a little longer than the outer foam in terms of padding life, but again, it can be hard to tell sometimes. The ear cups cannot fold into the headband for storage due to the rigid rods going into the rigid connectors in the band. This is only a minor downside, and these aren't exactly meant to be portable anyway. The last thing to talk about hardware-wise is the two jacks/ports. The 3.5mm auxiliary jack fits firmly in place and is very solid. The charging port is a little wiggly while inserted though. This shouldn't be too big of an issue if you leave the headphones to sit and charge on their own and can get a consistent connection to the headphones so that they accept the charge. I do believe this is because the port on mine is a little loose. I don't know if this is for all units, but the slot does still have a strong and firm connection. So as long as I'm not too rough on the set while it's charging, there shouldn't be any issues. Now let's talk about the tech in these headphones. There are what look like 4 buttons on the one ear cup, but there's actually only 3. The one with the dot is only an indicator light. You cannot use these headphones passively to listen to any media, meaning you have to turn them on to listen to even a wired connection. Most headphones will allow you to simply plug in so that you don't have to worry about charging the headphones, or it can be used as a backup when the battery dies. However, this is not the case here. To power on, you press and hold the button below the one with the dot. The headphones will start talking to you and play a tone while turning on. I will try to capture this audio now.
Power on. Battery high.
I think this is meant to be heard without having the headphones on your head. I tested listening to this audio with the headphones on just to be sure though. It's not blaringly loud, but it's not the most comfortable either. The tone that plays is really the thing that bothers my ears for some reason though. Additionally, I'm not really sure why it's there in the first place, but the battery notification is a nicer touch. Once turned on, the indicator will periodically blink red. I assume this is to try and get your attention when you take them off to remind you to try and turn them off. But it also may end up being a distraction or nuisance to your other coworkers for one reason or another while you're actually wearing them. Additionally, the battery life seems pretty crazy on these things, but we'll talk about that more later. And you do the same action to turn them off. Then the nice headphone lady tells you that they are turning off with no other lines, tones, or indicators.
Power off.
Apparently your headphone advisor will also remind you that your battery is low every 20 minutes when the battery is considered low by the headphones. And she will tell you that the battery is empty before forcibly shutting down the power because it's just out of juice. I haven't experienced any of that yet because the battery life is reported to be very long lasting on these. I don't know where I thought I saw this, but I thought I saw that the battery life was advertised as being around 20 hours of continuous use. But I can't seem to actually find that statement anywhere in the manual and sales material again, so don't take that as a fact. Now let's talk about its Bluetooth capabilities. Pairing to my phone was easy. While you have your headphones turned on normally, you quickly double-click the power button to enter pairing mode.
Bluetooth pairing on.
Once you are in pairing, the device you are trying to connect to needs to be in its discovery mode. Then it should have DeWalt DPG17 pop up as a pairable option. In this day and age, you can't take for granted when a product has an obvious and easily definable pairing name. Sometimes it's just a whack-ass code or some crazy designation, and you wouldn't really have any way of knowing if what you're pairing to is actually the device you're using. After the set is paired, the light above the power button will flash blue periodically, and you will more than likely be able to see the battery status on your phone and some other Bluetooth-enabled devices. You cannot control the volume of media using the headphones. That is done on the connected device. One thing that I have to say is that these must have a decent volume boost, because I was able to listen to my music comfortably on my phone at half volume. For most people, this isn't a technological feat, but my phone quickly shit itself months after getting it, and the volume headroom got halved, meaning the maximum output volume got significantly reduced. So even at max system volume, it was barely audible. This issue goes beyond the phone speakers being blown out or something like that, because this issue also transferred to my Bluetooth speaker when I connect this same phone to it. So basically it's a little impressive that these headphones play audio, well, audibly under my circumstances. While you can't control the volume, you can control some other functions using the headphones controls. Using the down button plays the previous track and the up button plays the next one. It states in the manual that some devices may not be compatible with the headphones controls, but it did work with my Google Pixel 7 while using YouTube Music. They kind of forgot to mention how to play and pause because they refer to the ability to be able to pause music in other sections of the manual, but don't actually say how to do it in the section labeled /back or pause. So I just had to kind of infer how to. If you press and release the power button normally once, it will pause and resume music. The reaction time on this is a little bit slow, but I'm assuming that's because it's trying to make it a little easier to do a double press, because that's how you actually enter the pairing mode on the headphones. They also had this instructional issue in the power and volume section, because they tell you how to turn on the headphones and tell you about the battery notifications, but they don't tell you anything about the volume in that section. Apparently there are also controls for picking up and ignoring phone calls. Based on the manual, your music will be muted, apparently not paused, and you will hear your phone's ringtone in the headphones until the call is ended or an action is taken. It says to answer the phone call, you can press the function button once, which I will assume is the power button. Then to disconnect from the call, you do the same. And apparently you can also reject the call and go back to your music by pressing and holding the button, which if the action button is the same as the power button, that seems like it could be a risky maneuver to me. But I assume that there is an action delay in between actions, and it shouldn't be too much of an issue since you do have to hold the button for 3 whole seconds to actually turn off the headphones. One thing that the manual has no mention of is how you are supposed to actually talk to people on the phone if you choose to answer a call with the headphones. There is a tiny dot on the control side of the headphones, so that may be a microphone, but if you are in a loud environment, the whole main reason to buy these headphones, I would assume that the caller wouldn't even be able to actually hear you in general, let alone not knowing the actual quality of the mic and its pickup pattern. Then it talks about the direct input mode. Like stated earlier, despite having a direct connection port, usually meaning you can bypass the battery, in this case you still have to have a charge and have to turn on the headphones in order for the headphones to work even in wired connection mode. So that's a bit of a letdown, but only a little since the battery life is very good. Additionally, there is no aux cord or adapter included, so you will have to buy one separately. It may be different depending on your scenario, but you will probably need a 3.5mm aux to 3.5mm aux cable if this is the route you like to go for connectivity. I got confused because of the way that they phrased this next part in the manual. It says to use the native controls on the device to control basically anything. So for some reason I interpreted the headphones as the device, but that makes no sense. And they're just saying that the controls on the headphones do nothing in wired connection, which is to be expected for the most part in most scenarios. Damn it! So the last tech thing to talk about is the charging. The headphones will come with little to no battery out of the package to accommodate some regulation about shipping batteries, I think. I didn't pay attention to the exact time it took to charge the headphones, but I think it took them around 5 hours and I believe the battery was full. To charge the battery, you simply plug them in and the light will be a steady red. When they are fully charged, the light will be a steady blue and the headphones will stop charging themselves. At least that's what the manual says. It's pretty much always best practice to take rechargeable items off of the charger as soon as possible after fully charging them. Additionally, I tried to actually run out the battery on these, but it was kind of a challenge. I didn't have a good way of constantly playing music through them because YouTube Music constantly stops the freaking audio after every 10 to 20 minutes or something like that and asks if you're still listening. So I just tried and left the headphones on by themselves, not playing any audio overnight, and the battery indicator on my phone did not move. And I don't know if that's just an inaccuracy from the transmission, something like that, but it stayed at 90% the whole time they were on, pretty much. So I don't know if that's just showing how long this battery is, or if that was just an error from something in the technology here. More than likely that's an error on my phone's part because it rarely shows what the actual battery value of my Bluetooth speaker is. It usually says it's at 80% or it's dead. So now's the time you've all been waiting for. How do these headphones actually sound? Well, the best thing I can say is that they have potential. There's some actually really nice detail to these headphones, but they have some boosting that just ruins it and throws the entire sound signature off significantly. The bass is overpowering, and I think that there might be a spike in the mid somewhere, which leads to a slight telephonic effect at times on guitars. Not to mention light distorting in that frequency, but that's hard to detect and it's only occasional. And that's what's really annoying, is that there seems to be a nice balance somewhere in these headphones, but they have boosting either acoustically from the construction or driver design, or artificially in some processing happening in the circuitry in the headphones. Because the high-end detail isn't missing, it's just being kind of drowned out by other louder frequencies. My suspicion is that they have decent audio drivers in the ear cups, but they didn't account for the isolating closed back design. If you have headphones that are over ear and or open backed, they allow more bass to escape and for air to flow more naturally, which can allow for easier and more natural tuning of the drivers. At least that's based on my observations. Again, don't take that as fact. but these other models don't allow for the best outside sound isolation. Both on-ear and open-backed headphones allow for more sound to enter from outside and escape from inside. So the physics of the bass can flow more dynamically and naturally compared to the closed-back over-ear design we have here, but it can't protect our hearing like the true main goal of these headphones that we have here in our hands. For DeWalt, I think the audio input is just kind of a bonus on top of trying to make some decent hearing protection, which it does protect pretty decently based on my experience while using these while playing on my drum kit. Unfortunately, it's just actually hard to practice music since the bass is decently overpowering. When I was practicing, the mids were harder to hear than normal listening, and the high-end detail was even harder to detect. For casual listening while working, they aren't the worst, though your media will definitely not be portrayed in the way that the creator meant it to be heard. But for actual music use, these fall short by a decent bit. You may be able to fix these issues with an equalizer app, but for uses like connecting to a simpler mixer board, that can make this process quite a bit more difficult. So can I recommend these headphones? Well, that's going to come down to personal preference. I would suggest trying them out if you are interested, just make sure that you buy them from a place with a decent return policy. I think that there are a decent amount of trade workers that wouldn't be bothered by the sound quality of these. In fact, inexperienced ears might even enjoy the sound truthfully. I would also suggest trying them out if you have means to EQ and attenuate them and such, but if you want sound dampening headphones that just sound good, I would have to say I can't recommend these specific ones. Although, like I said, there is potential even in this model, so maybe some of the other DeWalt models have better sound. It definitely seems like a possibility to me, but I can only inform you based on what I have access to here and now. If you enjoyed this video, finding it informational or entertaining in any way, please leave a like. I don't make a regular income, so if you consider purchasing these, please use the affiliate link in the description. It adds no cost to you and helps me out if you buy anything on Amazon after using the same window of Amazon. Just remember to delete the Honey extension because it makes its money by stealing affiliate commissions from people like me. Also check the description for other ways to support me because I will hopefully be setting up some more stuff soon. I normally talk about guitar, drum, and sometimes bass related topics, reviewing gear and such. I also talk about 3D printers, review them, and talk about subjects around them as well. And I also do whatever I want, occasionally like today. So if any of that sounds good, please consider subscribing. That's all I have to say for now, so I'm gonna say bye-bye.